Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Before we begin, I should warn you that some of you may find what you are about to hear rather disturbing.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Until Dawn podcast. As always, my name is Coy, and with me is my wife, Felicia.
Hello. I was really excited when Scott and Amber from Ghostly Talk reached out to see if we wanted to do a podcast with them.
Yeah, I always enjoy talking to Scott and Amber from Ghostly Talk ever since we met them at the Haunted America conference, 3 years ago?
Yeah, 3 years.
And every year we kind of always get together and sit down and just talk, catch up, because it's kind of one of those situations. They live so far away, I guess, really from us, that it's not someone we get to, see on a regular basis. So we always enjoy, catching up. And we've kind of almost made it a habit now of all getting together and recording an episode. And we always, after the conference, kind of put that out as our what they always call Swapcast. But of course, since we didn't get together this year, we didn't get that opportunity.
I am so glad that we got the chance to talk with them and record this episode.
And Ghostly Talk, just in case anybody doesn't know, they're probably one of the, I guess, I want to say probably one of the oldest paranormal podcasts that I know of. There may be other ones I know, but they've probably been doing it the longest that I know of. They started in 2002, which, I mean, I think at that point it was probably almost completely an internet-based show.
I was going to say, that would have been like internet.
Right. Now they're everywhere you can think of. They're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Sticher, and if you go to their website, ghostlytalk.com, I'm sure they'll have links to any of the other places that they're at.
And if you have not listened to their podcast before, you definitely need to go back and download some of their episodes. They always have the most interesting and amazing guests.
All right, so let's take a quick break and you guys enjoy the Swapcast.
A sudden draft from a window that was supposed to have been closed. A chill at the back of the neck. Groans, creaks, and bumps in the night. Man has always been frightened by the dark, troubled by noises just beyond the reach of lights, occurrences just beyond the reach of understanding.
Welcome back to Ghostly Talk. This is Scott L.
This is Amber.
What a fun night we had.
Fun night.
Fun night. What a fun night
we got to hang out with Coy and Felicia from the Until Dawn podcast.
Fantastic podcast.
And
it's a wonderful podcast. You have to listen to it.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
All of their episodes can be found on, of course, all the usual places: iTunes, iHeartRadio, any podcast app you use. Just search Until Dawn, and they have a number of episodes out there that they've done that are super cool and fun to listen to. And it's a husband and wife duo.
Yeah, power couple like us.
And we met them at Troy's event, the Haunted America conference.
Yeah.
And immediately liked them. And then the one thing I liked about Coy, he came up to, and he was wearing a Flag Nor Fail, I think it was a hat.
Well, one thing I want to, directly, if you want to get, check these guys out, you can go to facebook.com/Until Dawn podcast.
Yeah.
All run together. That's one place you can find them at. They're all over the place, though.
And a lot of people do not know what Flag Nor Fail is because it's a small clothing.
Because you're not a motherfucking beast.
Okay, well, if you know Rob Bailey and his lovely wife, Dana Lynn Bailey.
I'm a motherfucking beast.
She is one of the most amazing female bodybuilders out there. I don't think she looks gross. I know there's a lot of people that have opinions.
She's one of the best athletes in the world.
Have opinions.
Dana Lynn Bailey is amazing.
She's not disgusting. She's not on roids, as a lot of people like to
she's
say.
All natural. She's all natty.
When you lift weights, almost like your whole life, you can grow muscle even as a girl, and when you have an impeccable diet. But anyway, I digress. So he had this Flag Nor Fail, I think shirt or hat on. I don't remember. And I was like, oh my God, Dana Lynn, you're a DLB fan? And then we just started talking right away. And I was like, oh, he's cool. We got to hang out with him later. And then his wife is super cool.
Yeah, Felicia. Awesome. They're both amazing people.
So then Felicia loves Disney. So of course then I
remember that conversation.
Yeah, so
that's when I left the room. I'm out of here.
We got on a conversation about Disney, Disney World. I'm not necessarily obsessed with Disney characters. It's the parks that I love. And so anyway,
I'm surprised I didn't come up on the show tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it just didn't go that way. I almost
because the show went
no,
good.
no. I almost asked Felicia if she had any interest in going to Disney World right now during COVID, because I just talked to someone who I work with who goes like multiple times a year. She gets a season pass, and she had a trip scheduled for September, and she canceled it, even though on all the blogs and everything, she's like, it looks like an amazing time to be at Disney. Yes, you have to wear a mask, but like the longest wait time is 15 minutes. There's half the amount of people in the park, so you're not being bombarded. And then they are enforcing the mask thing with stormtroopers. It doesn't get cooler than that. I'd almost want to take the mask off just to see if a stormtrooper came out of nowhere. Like, oh, shoot. I don't know what they would say to me. It'd be some Star Warian thing.
Halt.
Yeah. Please place mask back on face. I don't know. But anyway.
So that was what you guys talked about a lot, was Disney.
Sure. But
that's wonderful. We had the honor of having these two on the show tonight. It was fantastic. Love the show. Love their podcast. Love these people too. They're wonderful, and we're really bummed. You know, we had a great thing going there for 2 years in a row, at least, where we got to see them once a year at Troy Taylor's conference down there in Alton. Unfortunately, this year, as we know, that didn't happen because of this little pandemic going on.
Little pandemic.
And I've really been wanting to have a conversation with them and just catch up and see what was going on, and we got to do that with Coy and Felicia Pittman from the Until Dawn podcast. Enjoy.
Coming out of a bunker in Michigan goes the top, he's in your ears again. Buckle up, give your head a spin again. Turn it on and come right in. Born in 2002, the one and only GT crew, coming back old school, run right over you. Go sleep, talk, go sleep, talk, go sleep, talk, go sleep, talk.
So the last time we had Coy and Felicia on was, I think, in Alton, Illinois.
That was a couple
Years ago.
Few years, yeah.
Probably all slightly buzzed in a hotel room,
There was-
screaming at a microphone.
I think way more than slightly buzzed, but
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
So now we have them back so they sound professional and polished, and
Well,
they look it too, because we saw them briefly on
yeah,
Skype.
yeah, and we tend to shy away from the video
They
thing.
both have great hair.
They got great hair. I haven't had a haircut in 5 months, nor a beard trim in 5 months. That's why we don't do the video stuff here,
No,
guys. That's
everyone would
'cause
be scared of Scott's bell
I look
mullet.
I look like my bell mullet.
Yeah, it's like a little bell.
It's just
Oh my God.
my hair's curly.
Yeah, but it's like turned into a bell shape.
Yeah, and that's what you and Tony were saying that the other night too. My hair looks like a bell now. I'm like, it's curly, and I don't do anything with it. So, yeah, you guys look great though. We got to see you briefly. Thank you. We love your show, and we've had the pleasure, as Amber mentioned, not once, but hanging out with you guys a couple times down in Alton, Illinois, at Troy Taylor's conference. And we're really bummed for the obvious this year that we couldn't get down there and hang out with everybody again. But as we all know, this whole weird pandemic thing's happening, so that was kind of a bummer for all of us.
Yeah, it really was. We always look forward to that.
So have you guys been doing anything, like how has your lockdown and COVID experience been down in Missouri?
How's your COVID experience been?
Right. We have done nothing. We have this weird thing where Coy works for the government, so they actually lock us down even more.
Oh, wow.
They put up restrictions. So thanks to his job,
Yeah.
we've been stuck.
Yeah, for me, it was business as normal. I'm a essential employee, so I was going to work no matter what.
Oh wow! So so you've been going into work? You haven't been working remotely or anything like that?
No, I can't do my job remotely, really. So
Yeah.
I have to be there at the hospital, and
Oh my goodness! Every day, this is why. I mean, even though today was one of those days for a lot of reasons, but today was a grind for me. But I work from home right now, and I do have to say, when I hear something like that, it's like, okay, I am truly blessed, because you have guys like you who are considered essential employees, also government employee too, that have to go out every day, and that's got to be a total grind. So yeah, thank you for doing that, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
So, yeah, and this whole thing is just, you're not the only one. There's a lot of people that are out there doing that. And it's one thing, I've talked to other people that, they've pounded right through this thing. They haven't stopped. They put the mask on and they went to work every day. And I think that's something that, a lot of people, a lot of people are neglecting that, or they're just not paying much attention to the people that are out there that have to go to work every day. And they've been working right through this whole thing. Some people are bummed because they're unemployed, and that's the other ugly side of this thing.
Yeah, it's awful how it's affected people in much worse ways than that even.
And you're kind of go ahead, Felicia.
I think I had to take like 6 weeks off because I'm a hairstylist, so they closed us down.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's self-employment, so it's not like I could apply for stuff really. So
I think the way I'm going right now, the next time I get a haircut, it might be from you and Alton next year.
Hey, let's do it.
Yeah, please.
Whatever, Amber.
Be a bigger bell.
It ain't gonna be it's gonna be a bigger bell at all.
Be like the Liberty Bell on your head.
So we were doing some prep for this thing, and Corey, you mentioned, or maybe both of you mentioned this. There's some weird connection, and I really was curious to talk about this. There's some weird connection of one of the first paranormal books that I read, or Amber read, I'm not sure. And it had to do with Felicia's grandmother. Am I correct? Please.
Yeah.
I want to hear about this. Was it directed towards me or Amber though?
It was you. So
Okay,
that book,
right.
the one that you say got you into the paranormal, the haunted houses.
Haunted Houses by Larry Kettlecamp.
Yes, I actually have it right in front of me.
Oh, far out.
So you were talking about it one day on the podcast, and I was like, oh my gosh, my grandparents, their farm is in that book. So I thought that was pretty crazy.
What?
Oh,
It's like a poltergeist story from Missouri. That would be my family.
Yeah, and it's been a long time since I read the book again, but it's all kind of hazing back in now. But it's that book's kind of it's a strange layout in the book. It's a cool layout because it gets into like different phenomena, and poltergeist obviously is one of them, and that's one of the stories. Yeah, like you mentioned that they kind of use that Larry Kettlecamp uses an example. Yeah, that's a really super cool book. So that was your grandmother's farm, you said?
Yeah,
Holy crap!
parents live in
Wow.
Missouri.
So what happened? What was their situation with their poltergeist?
Now we have the firsthand account.
Right. So they think it was based around my Aunt Betty because the activity was really around her a lot. I think she was like 12 or 13 at the time. So
That's like the ideal poltergeist age.
What's that
Right.
age? Yeah. I'm ready to run and grab the book right now.
I don't know a lot about it, but I know like with hers, it wasn't just happening at the house. It was like different locations she would go to. Stuff would happen there, like out in stores, at other people's houses.
So is that kind of a nationally known story, or did this author just happen to interview your grandma and get the story for his book?
So I think what happened was he was actually interviewing some people that came down from Duke University to investigate their house.
Larry
Which is crazy because
yeah.
this happened in like the 50s.
Right.
You know, back then, especially Southern Missouri, you don't tell people you have a ghost in your house.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I always believed my grandma when she told me the stories.
Larry Kettlecamp's from Illinois, so I mean he's not.
Is he? I didn't even know that.
He's not that far away. Well, here while we're on that subject, I might as well talk about this a little bit. So this was earlier this year. It may have been pre-pandemic. Go grab that book, Amber. There's a couple copies sitting, in the archives on the other side of the wall. We have a couple. It's funny because we've had people because I was talking about this book back in the early days of this show, right?
Right.
So it's been really heart touching because. We used to go to conferences, a lot more conferences back in the day. We go to conferences and stuff like that, and we'd bump into people, and I got multiple copies of this book now in all different shapes, like all its different wears and tears, from people saying, I listened to the show, and you say that was like the first book and like your favorite book on the paranormal you ever read. So I have a copy, and I want to give it to you. So a bunch of people did that. So we have like several copies of the thing strewn about the house. Earlier this year, I don't know why I didn't do it in the early days. Maybe it's because I just didn't have any confidence, but I decided to reach out to Larry, do a bit of research and try to get in contact with Larry Kettlecamp, right? And I went through a handful of Facebook accounts of what I thought were relatives, which I did talk to a couple people. I added, this has got to be, you got a picture being on the other end of this thing, like some random dude that looks like me adds you on Facebook. The fact that they added me back was insanity, right? And I said, "Hey, are you related to Larry Kettlecamp?" And one of the young ladies is like, "Yeah, he's my uncle." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm trying to find this dude. I mean, I didn't even know if he was still alive or not, to be honest.
Right.
There wasn't a lot of there wasn't like a Larry Kettlecamp fan site or anything like that out there. So I managed to actually get an email address and talk to the man himself. And it started out, it was simple. I'm like, hey, listen, I got a long story. I'll keep it brief, but this is, your book Haunted Houses I read, it made me fall in love and get interested in the paranormal when I was very young. And you've been kind of an inspiration for the stuff I've done since then. And God, it would be an honor to have you on the show. And we had a really great conversation on email, back and forth, talking about ideas about he was really excited to talk to me. He's clearly an author because he loves to type, right? So he was typing like 3-page emails to me, which I kept them because they're great. It's great reading about ideas that he's had recently and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, Mr. Kettlecamp, I go, this is fantastic. I'd love to have you on the show. I mean, it's super we're not shock jocks. It's totally laid back and here's our credentials and everything. And he's like, no, I don't want to be on the show. I'm like, you're killing me here, dude. Come on, man. But he just wasn't interested in doing any type of show like that. He wasn't interested in coming and talking to us. And I respect that. I don't hold that against him in any way whatsoever. Totally cool. And I still respect the man and love the man, but I have some really great emails. And maybe if I'm feeling saucy, maybe one of these days I'll break them out and I'd like to ask him before if I was going to do something like that and read some of the stuff that he talked about. Because it was a great conversation I had with him, at least on email. I would have loved to have him on the show. So there's a lot. Amber's like over here, like, what do you?
I'm looking at I found the story.
Oh, you found the story?
Yeah. Was it Mr. and Mrs. Clinton Ward?
Yes. That's them.
Okay. Yep. Found it.
Okay. And she's got a copy of that right in front of us. So that book really is special, and it's always found its way, into the lore of our show. I guess it's something that I've always brought up, and I just love that book. It's
There's
fantastic.
an illustration. I guess the illustrations were done by Larry Kettlecamp too, and they're kind of cute. And this book was published in 1969.
Yeah, it's an old book.
By Weekly Reader, which I don't know when the weekly seems like they had a book order that you could get stuff from, and I don't know when that started because they had that in elementary school like in the 80s when I was there, but I don't know how prevalent that was like in decades before that you had book orders at school.
I don't know.
So
I don't think it ever really came out in a hardcover edition. It's not a very long book.
No, but there's a cute illustration of a lady sitting on a couch, and it says, "Suddenly the room was full of flying walnuts."
Well,
so something happened that involved flying walnuts.
Definitely a small world, I have to say, when it comes to that. And when I read that, I was like, oh, we got to talk about this thing. 'Cause I had a feling it was about haunted houses because that's the only book I really, really jazz on the show as far as something I've read a bunch of books on the paranormal. That's just the one that stuck with me. It just, for some reason, and maybe because it was the first one, but it's just a book that I've said this before. It's just a really good book to read, even now I think it's kind of short to the point and it's easy to digest. It gets into some sciencey kind of nerdy stuff, but you get to read cool ghost stories too. It's got it all. It's a fantastic little book. I think it's wonderful. That book. I wish we could get him on. I'm really bummed about that still. I'm just totally bummed. So cool. I would have loved it.
I'm impressed you found him.
It was like I said, I did a lot of creeping around, and I say creeping with a capital C. I'm like, look, I'm just trying to find this guy. Is he even still alive? And he's I think he's like in his late 80s now.
Wow. So
he's up there, but he's sharp as a tack. I just, like I said, he can type, but he just doesn't want to talk. So maybe one of these days I can kind of into it. I may reach out to him again. But yeah, thank you for that though. It's so cool to hear that it's such a small world.
Yeah.
Now, one thing you guys mentioned too, and that it's something I think we've been talking about a lot lately, and I think I'm becoming more and more of a drooling hippie these days. So it's something that I kind of support as far as one way, but it's the gadgets thing with the paranormal, right? And, studying, I guess specifically with, ghost observing, whatever you want to, I hate, Doug said that years ago, ghost hunting is such a kind of a negative misnomer, I think, on this field, like ghost hunting, like we're not hunting anything. We're just observing. Right. It's something, but gadgets though, as far as that's concerned, do you guys, I'm sure, do you guys use any type of equipment when you go out?
We do. I mean,
but it's really like, digital cameras, recorders. Initially I was definitely really, really big into the gadgets, and
You start out, you're like, I got to buy everything. I'm going to spend my whole paycheck on this.
right.
Yeah.
We don't need food. It's ramen this week. Like I got to get this new, grid thing. But the more that we do it, I'm like, I don't want to take that stuff. I'm not going to take that. I'll grab my camera and my recorder and just go.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the pattern a lot of people are taking, especially people that have been doing this for a long time, like 15 plus years. They're like, okay, I just want an experience now. I don't need to watch my thing dip for reasons I don't even understand. Because a lot of ghost hunters, sadly, I can't say that I understand all the equipment I have perfectly, like the ins and outs of an EMF detector, all that stuff. Okay, did something. Well, how do I know that's a ghost? Well, I know I know what I see because I know I'm not crazy. So if suddenly I see something wispy in front of me or something grabs my shoulder and squeezes, that's an experience. I can't prove it to anyone, but I think that's just what happens as you age in the paranormal.
Well,
you become aged.
Yeah, I think it really becomes much more about the personal experience rather than trying to jump out there and look what I got.
Yeah. You don't have to prove anything anymore.
Right.
well, maybe
People don't believe you if you try to prove something,
Yep.
People are so skeptical of everything.
Yep.
I don't know. I feel like I was getting lost in my equipment. Like I was staring down the whole time and missing what's happening. It was
Exactly.
the investigation was passing me by while I'm sitting here staring at a camera,
Well, I think maybe the thing with this though too, and it raises a couple of points and questions, I think, for everybody here. Amber, you mentioned this. You mentioned that that after a while, I know we've done that. We just kind of stopped bringing all the gear. Is it a matter? And I'll use the L word. Is it a matter of like, okay, look, I'm tired of breaking my ass here. I'm getting a little lazy. I'll bring my camera and my recorder, right? Or is it, Felicia? You just mentioned that, right? Is it that if you have a handful of years doing this, and you go through, like I've said a lot of times, you go through all the movements of this thing where you start out as a pure believer. I think a lot of people start out as a pure believer. Over time, you become a bit skeptical, and then over time, you may even become cynical, right? I think you get to a point, I know I did, where it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe when I started out on this adventure, I did want to prove something. I had something to prove. I wanted to prove the existence of the afterlife. That was our mission statement when we were kids. And now I think it's just a matter of I don't have anything to prove to anybody, and I don't owe anybody a damn thing. So if I'm going to keep doing this, I'm going to do it for me. Right. And if that means I see something just pops up in front of me in a hallway somewhere and says, "Hi, I'm a ghost. How are you? Here's proof in front of you right now." And that's the end of it. And I didn't have enough time to get my camera up or get a recording of it in any way to get some type of artifact of it. Right. Well, tough shit. That's how I feel about it now. It's like, I don't really feel like I have to, I'm not trying to sell a picture to the National Enquirer or whatever, or the Sun or whatever it is. That's bottom feeding, in my opinion, right? And I mean, I'm not saying that's what everybody's goal is either, but I think that's just what it comes down to is over time. And then, I want to hear what everybody else has to say about this too. That's my observation. Is just I think I personally, and I know I'm not alone, I don't have anything to prove. I don't really. I do this because I still care about the field and I care about stuff that I can't really explain. And what do you guys think? Everybody out there.
Yeah, I agree. I think, when you get, like you said, when you get started, it's, it's like, this happened to me. I've got to tell, stand on the biggest mountain and tell everybody and get you to believe what I believe. But over time, the more you're involved in it, you realize I don't need everybody else to believe what I believe.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to experience everything that I experience. And it becomes more about your personal experience and, delving deeper into that, whatever your end goal may be for yourself.
Yeah. That's why I mentioned like the drooling hippie that I'm becoming, because to me now, and we're not out there very often anymore. We got very busy lives. When I do go out, I don't even bring a camera anymore. I don't even bring a recorder. I bring myself. And that's what some of the greatest people I've talked to in this field have said when I've asked that question. Hey, so what should I, what are the tricks or the tools, and they're like, your senses, the senses that you were given when you were born. Those are the greatest tools you can take anywhere to detect something. Yeah. And that's kind of what I rely on now personally. And that isn't, and I think when you get into that, then your entire day can be an investigation, I think. I think we all know that this is about the subtleties and the strange things that happen in life, right? It isn't just, well, we're going to go out on Friday night at 7:00 and we're going to investigate this place until 11:00. And then, well, we're off the clock. So we don't look at anything anymore. I think that once you get into that territory of, okay, I'm just going to observe things all around me all the time, then every minute of the day is an investigation. When you're at work, when you're out at the park, when you're hiking, wherever it may be, you're doing whatever activity you're doing. I think that's when you need to be paying attention all the time, I think. And it's those little things that fly by you. And you mentioned that a second ago, Felicia, that you were immersed in your equipment. You were just looking down at your equipment the whole time.
Right.
And you weren't looking up, like, experiencing what's in front of you. And yeah, I think we've all been through that. And it's very eerie that you said that, because it just ties right in with, is it a problem, Amber, with the smartphone thing, right? Which we've done plenty of shitting on this show, but it's the same idea. I mean, a lot of people it happened 2 days ago in a parking lot. Somebody's sitting there looking at their phone, and if I hadn't have seen them, they'd have been road cheese. Okay. It's that idea too. So, I mean, I guess it applies, and you kind of pulled that together for me, Felicia, is, you can get immersed in that. So why not just make the whole day an investigation? I guess it's just my thoughts on it. When you put it in that context, is your senses, I guess. Right, Amber?
Sure. No, I mean, I think if you learn...
Do you concur, Amber?
I think if you learn to, the people that I know that have pulled back from using all kinds of equipment, they're getting more into the consciousness side of things, meditation.
Well, that's what I'm saying, the drooling hippies.
They don't... Why are they drooling?
Well, drooling. No hippies drool?
I don't think a lot of them do.
I don't drool.
See? Felicia's a hippie. She don't drool.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were a hippie.
So
I'm working on it.
So I think you can learn like skills to improve those our own senses, if that's what you mean, like every day. And I think that not just would it help you maybe on an investigation or pick up on the finer things in life. It can help you cope and be a better person, I think, and learn how to manage your own emotions and self. Just meditation alone has been proven to reduce a ton of negative stuff in the human body.
Well, I was talking more on the awareness side. I mean, Felicia.
Well, and meditation brings out awareness as well.
I mean, here's an example. And I mean, you guys chiming. I know you've had an experience like this. What's an easy one? Like, you ever be thinking about somebody? Like, it's a Tuesday and you're going about your day, and someone you haven't seen in many years pops in your head. Just randomly. Just one of those thoughts that comes and goes. It's like, oh, hey, what's up? And that thought of that person comes and goes. And then a day later, you bump into that person at the gas station or something like that. Has that ever happened to you guys? Either one of you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Right. You could easily write that off. Well, it's just a coincidence, or are you paying attention? I guess, like, okay, well, to me, because that's happened more than once to me, I've always really read into that and said, okay, what did I do to make that happen? Because I believe that I may have made that happen, or if it's just a timeline I'm on that was supposed to happen, who knows, right? But it's something that, going back to that point, that I'm paying attention to. I'm investigating all the time, all day long. Yeah, I mean, that's just what my thought is on that, I guess.
There's been an interesting thing that has come up in my little paranormal circles online, and about a couple weeks ago, I started seeing little flashes of things. Like, I'd just be sitting down in the basement and I'd see something flash up on, like, at the top of the stairs. And sometimes I would think, oh, it's the cat. And then I would never see the cat. And I was like, okay, that was weird. And then I'd be sitting on the couch and then something would catch my eye and I'd look and it was always really low to the ground, like maybe 2 feet, not anything tall. And finally, like the fifth or seventh time that this happened, I walked up the stairs and started looking around because I'm like, this is really weird. This is making me notice and look up from what I'm doing, just as if someone had walked by. And then online, suddenly, a bunch of other people started saying they're experiencing the same thing. Not everyone had the low to the ground stuff, but a lot of people said, oh, you're like 5, 6 feet, 7 feet or whatever in the air. And then seeing things out of the corner of their eye. I don't know if you guys have had any weird experiences since the world's been like topsy-turvy, but that's one of the things where people are kind of wondering, like, with everyone's consciousness just sort of wonky right now, is it causing things to just go like weird?
Right.
And people are starting to see things, or there's like a thinning of like something. I don't know if you guys have had anything weird happen.
I'm trying to think if I have. I don't think I have.
I haven't got a chance to slow down.
He never sits. So are you seeing it always in the same spot? Like always on your stairs?
No, it's always the stairs. I think I noticed the most.
Right.
And then I would write that off just because the cat's litter box is just around the corner, but it would never be the cat. And when it was, I'd say, I'm like, oh, it's okay, it's her, no big deal, whatever. Right. But it was just, it could be in the hallway. It was always at home. I don't think I had it anywhere like at work or anything, but it was startling. And for me to get up and actually go searching around the house, like, okay, what was that? Like, all right, it's weird. Okay, guys, what are you doing? Who's there? And and then that was the last time I've seen something that's caught my eye like that. But then to have a bunch of people jump online and say the same thing. So, hey, if you're someone out there listening to this podcast and you've been experiencing weird shadow things,
contact at ghostlytalk.com.
Right? Send me an email. I'd be curious what your experience is. But I don't know. That's just an experience. That's just sitting there, no equipment. I don't have a constant video surveillance of the house to be like, oh, I got to go. Okay. What grid system was that, Scott? Okay, let me go back and rewind that part of the camera. Like, that would be weird if you had your house.
It makes me wonder if it's not more just awareness, just because we don't, like Scott was saying, we just don't have so much going on now.
There's that too. And I think we talked about this on a previous podcast that there were more, and it was in a New York Times article that more people were reporting hauntings in their house.
Because you're there more.
Since COVID. And yeah, the logical theory is you're in your house longer. You're noticing all the creaks and groans and things that maybe didn't happen. Well, you never noticed because maybe you were at work when they did it. Like our house, when we're sitting, it doesn't always happen at night. It happens during the day. So it might have something to do with the heat, but there is a loud like crack always from the front door. Like it makes it like a knock.
There's a crack. I hear a crack also in the attic, a cracking sound. And I was going to say with this, Amber, and I don't know about you guys, I've been waking up religiously for the last 3 months now at 2:00 in the morning.
That's me.
Right,
mine's 1:30.
Right on the dot of 2:00 in the morning. To the point where I wake up. Okay, I'll be fair. Sometimes it's my bladder. I'm not getting any younger here, and I'm experiencing that wonderful part of my mid-40s now. But I mean, it's like 2:00, so I guess it's a healthy bladder if you have that. But it's the same time every night, unless I've had a few beers. And then I'm knocked out, right? But really on a normal day, it's that. And I noticed, in relation to what you said, Amber, I noticed that I hear a popping sound.
Yeah,
that comes from the attic.
And
I've been wondering, like, okay, is there some jerk off up there, like living in the attic right now? Is it the guy who came to and look, the pest control guy just moved up there when we weren't looking? What's going on here? So
yeah,
I thought about going up in the attic and seeing what's going on.
No, that's been doing that for years.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's some dude living up there, but it's just something with the house settling.
But it's something I never noticed until the last few months.
I've always noticed it, but for when it first happened, I was like, what the hell? Like, because it's loud. And if you aren't of these, I don't know, if you're not very skeptical,
hyper aware,
then you might go, oh my God, there's a ghost in the attic. There's something here. And so I could see where these reports have gone, have gotten higher. with everyone being home.
I think people are just, as we said, they're cooped up in their houses, and I don't know. Speaking to somebody who spent time as a shut-in for a number of years, you start getting a little weird after a while. I can honestly say that. You start getting that hunch to your back, and you start looking at all the blinds all the time, at all hours of the day. You start being one of those people, and I think that's wearing on people a little bit too. So yeah, you're going to naturally have more experiences. You guys obviously actively investigate still, don't you?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
How much do you guys usually get out these days?
These days, not so much.
Right.
But,
Well, yeah, I should have a dumb. What the hell kind of question is that? How about
the team, but I don't feel like I'm equipped to tell them what's going on. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yep.
I'm not the team, but I don't feel like I'm equipped to tell them what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yep.
I'm not comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yep.
I'm not comfortable saying this is happening in your house. It's just a little too personal for me.
Yep. We've talked about that too. That's been like a central theme on our show, but in the past, because I think a lot of people don't have any business telling people what's going on in their home.
I think it should be the number one goal of personally anybody who wants to go out and do investigations like this for residences. It should be their number one concern and thing they should be as honest to themselves about as possible. It's nice to hear that. It's nice to hear that, Felicia, because I'm the one that says that a lot. Like, look, I'm not going to be responsible for someone running out of their house, freaking out at 3:00 in the morning because I told them there's a ghost.
I want to know. Probably not.
And that's where the EVP thing comes in. Like if someone goes, like I go into someone's home and I set up.
I want to know. Probably not.
And that's where the EVP thing comes in. Like if someone goes, like I go into someone's home and I set up my recorder and it's like, I hate these people. I'm going to kill them. And you get that voice about, like, okay, do the owners want to hear this? Because do I know where that's coming from, really? I have no idea where that voice is really coming from. And then you play it back as if, oh, yeah, these are the things in your house and they don't like you so much. And nah.
I think it's just simply a matter of responsibility. That's all it is. I hate to sound like a broken record on this show, but it's something I think it's something that's important and needs to be said over and over again until people finally get it. You are not, I don't know anybody out there who's qualified to be a demonologist. I don't think there's any type of qualification to be a demonologist. Do you guys know of any?
No, because I've looked.
There's no qualification for that. I mean, and I don't think anybody's qualified to say, well, you definitely have a ghost in your house, right? Like I said, I've said that a million times to people. You can't. You may have this sneaking suspicion that there's some cute little Casper running around your house, and you like that. It's sweet. I think sometimes to think that you may have a spirit in your home, right? But then somebody comes in there and, well, here's a picture of one. You see this? See this cloud? See this cloud right here? We got a picture of. It's definitely a ghost. And I mean, we don't know what that is. We all know better here, right? I don't want to be responsible for that. I can't do that to people. And I think it's just irresponsible. And I think, saying that, and I've said it to people too. Like, I'm not, well, what, because that's the thing. And you guys know this too. If this comes up, well, these people have, they've have a podcast on paranormal stuff. They have to be experts. They're definitely, so then you get the barrage of questions. And my response, probably like yours, is, well, it's all up in the air, guys. We don't know. We just heard stories like you have, right? So the whole thing, there's no experts. I guess that's what it comes down to, right, Amber?
Right. Yeah. Well, there's no experts, but there are people like Rosemary Ellen Guiley was always an expert. She was a walking encyclopedia. You could ask her any question, like, "Hey, Rosemary, what's this? Hey, Rosemary, who's this researcher?" And she would just tell you. She knew. So there's experts in like knowledge of the paranormal, but there's no one out there that can actually say, "Yeah, I'm an expert in this. I figured it out, and this is what it is." And yeah, it's cool. Join my club. So that's.
No, there's people.
There's very intelligent people that know a lot.
I agree
about the subject matter. So
I agree, but at the end of the day,
that's where I get.
At the end of the day, you can have 40. I mean, and I'm not. No disrespect to Rosemary, her picture's hanging in our office here or in our studio. And I love her to death, and I have nothing but respect for her.
But she was an expert, though.
Well, she is as close to an expert as you could get, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's paranormal, there's UFO experts, they know their field, they know their stuff. And I don't think Rosemary was ever someone that was like, thought she had all the answers.
Oh, God, no. No.
You know? So she was always, I mean, like, well, that Troy Taylor said she could, last time when I had talked to him about, because she was always a staple at the Haunted America conference. And he would just be like, Ro, what do you want to talk about? And she's like, oh, I'll figure it out. It's like she could talk about anything and present
she
on
wasn't
it.
She wasn't encyclopedia.
Well, she wrote encyclopedias.
Yeah, well,
So-
I think it really comes down to, though, you don't know until what happens to you, I guess. I mean, as far as this field of study, I think what we're trying to find out is, what happens after you cease to exist physically, right?
Right.
And I don't think, I mean, and maybe we'll find out, maybe not in our lifetimes, but I think that's kind of that's the great peacemaker in this field. Yeah, some people have a lot more experience. Some people have done a lot more study. They have more books. I get that. But really, none of us know. None of us really know here, I think. And it goes back to your point, Felicia. Like, I'm not qualified to answer that question. I don't have the answers. I wish more people would say that.
Yes, me too.
Because, I'm sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was just saying, I was agreeing.
Oh, okay.
I wish people would.
Yeah, I don't think we won't have the answers until we die. let's end it with that, because that's really,
Right.
I think all there is. You guys have been out to a handful of places. Is there some places that some more, I mean, I guess some notable places. Where have you guys actually went? Have you guys been to any of the landmarks we know of?
I went to Waverly Hills.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good one.
Oh gosh. You went to Waverly. I haven't been to Waverly. You went to Transout, didn't you? No.
Ohio State
Ohio State,
Reformatory.
yeah.
He
Yep.
never remembers that.
No.
Oh,
See, I've been
Mansfield.
I was able to travel to some that he's not able to.
Right.
Yeah. Waverly Hills. It's funny you mentioned Waverly Hills, because in the parking lot of Waverly Hills one night, we went there for a gathering. That's where I got one of my books. Some lady, that was one of the weirder ones, because this nice lady just walked up to me in the middle of the parking lot as we were standing there smoking cigarettes and talking. And she's like, hi, I'm Cindy, and I listen to Ghostly Talk. I like your show, and here, take this. And I looked at him like, holy crap. She's like, yeah, I listened to your show, and I know you like this book a lot, and I had a copy, so I wanted to give it to you. I'm like, well, oh my God, come here, give me a hug. You're like the coolest lady ever, It's kind of off-putting, but at the same time, very sweet, And it was in the parking lot of Waverly Hills. And we've been to, or I know I've been, Amber, you've only been there a couple times, haven't
What?
you? Ohio State Reformatory.
Yeah, like
Mansfield.
twice.
Mansfield. How many times have you been to Mansfield, Felicia?
I just went once.
What'd you think? What'd you think
It
of
was-
the place?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I had some crazy stuff happen down in the what's that called? Like the hole.
The solitary confinement. Yeah.
Yeah, solitary. Thank you.
Did
I was sitting there and I felt like something like punched the bottom of the bed. Scared the crap out of me.
Really?
It was a really cool experience.
I didn't like
After
being
I
down
calmed down.
there. Like, how many people were with you when that happened?
In the room,
Yeah.
there was 4 of us.
Okay, so that's not a lot. I know, like, sometimes you'd be like going through on a regular tour, and there might be like, I don't know, 15, 20 people with you. But when you got a chance to walk around,
I think when we went yeah,
You dropped out a little bit. What was that, Felicia?
I didn't hear what she said.
Oh,
So
yeah, I think we all dropped.
We all dropped out. Right, what were
no,
you
I
saying,
was
Amber?
saying that when you go around with the bigger tour maybe, and then it's not so freaky, and then when you break off into little groups to go wander about, and you are with that smaller group, I did not like going into those tiny cells, especially the solitary confinement stuff in the basement. I never liked being the last person in line. I constantly had that like feeling like something was behind me, and it was probably just me getting worked up, but.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful building, but it also is very spooky in parts still. And I don't know how much they've done over since we've been there to kind of clean some things up, because some of it was really refurbished,
Yeah.
and some of it was just kind of like the day they closed the doors, they haven't done anything to it since.
Yeah, that's kind of how it was when we were there. I think there was like a library.
Oh, the library's fantastic.
Yeah. Some of the rooms there were like kind of creepy.
The
Still.
library actually has a spire. I don't know if you guys had a chance to go up it, but we had one of the guides take us up there years ago. At the very far end, which would be, I guess that would be the north end of the library, there's a spiraling staircase that goes to the roof, right to the roof.
Oh, wow.
And we got to walk, very narrow, small, but we got to walk and go on the top of the roof and walk around. One of the times we were there, me and Doug did. There's also the scariest part of that prison to me was we were in the top, the top level of the cells. So we've been on the west side.
Mm-hmm.
The way that they built those old prisons, and it had plumbing, right? The way they built those is obviously you have the cell, and then in the back of out the back of the cell would be the plumbing from the toilet and the sink, right? And you're talking about hundreds of pipes, running to a main. And in order to service that stuff, what they did is in between, because you have like one row of cells on one side, the north side, and one row of cells on the south side, right? And in between that was a big metal door. And one of the guides opened up the big metal door, and it's just this hallway. It's about 2.5 feet wide, enough for you to walk through, right? And you can see all the plumbing. So it was a service corridor for the plumbers to go in there and do service work on any of the plumbing there may have been issues with. However, the scary part was it isn't a solid floor that you're walking on as you walk into that service corridor. It's a graded floor.
Oh, I hate those.
And every single level are graded floors.
Ugh.
So when you walked in there on the top level, the top story, and you look down, you can see all the way down. And I got about 3 feet and turned around and said, this is the worst thing in the entire world.
How could you walk up lighthouses then? How is it that I can't do that?
Those are hard. Those are hard too.
Okay, but you still could do it.
I could still do it, but that I guess because there was a wall there, I could hold on to
in the lighthouse.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Oh,
but
I can't do lighthouses either. I've tried once.
Horrible, and I love lighthouses. We're in Michigan. We have so many haunted lighthouses. It's the best little thing to go tour. And some of them, if they're small enough, I can go up them. But I'm gonna forget the name of the one that we were at that I couldn't do.
I don't know.
It's a big one. It's
west side or east side of the state?
Oh, it was on Lake Huron.
It's on the east side of the state.
Yes. Okay. Whatever. A big white lighthouse that is haunted.
Well, that narrows it down.
And I started going up it, and Scott was like, "You gotta go faster." I don't know why you were back saying that. I don't know if there was people behind you, and I'm like, I can't do this. And then the lady's like, "Oh, you get vertigo," and I don't even know if it's a vertigo thing because I don't feel dizzy.
It's just fear of heights. You're looking down.
And I think they're looking down, and I never had that problem until I was in London, and we went up to the I don't know what it was, the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral. And these steps were I don't know how old. It's St. Paul's Cathedral. I don't know when it was built. Everything in London was built 1,000 years ago, literally. So we're going up these spiral staircases or steps, whatever. And I'm looking down to the church floor. And then you got the pressure because it's a tour. So everyone is going up, you kind of got to move. Oh, it sucked. And that's when I learned, I don't like these. Nope. And I can do some lighthouses, but not all of them.
Graded stairs is not what I can do. And that's the scariest. That was the scariest part of Mansfield for me, Felicia, was just
not the ghosts, the graded flooring.
And they're like,
it's
come on.
That you can see down. It is scary.
Well,
and a lighthouse that's spinning on top of that.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. The guys, the tour guys, the guys there, they're like, come on, you can just make the walk, dude. Go all the way down to the end of the cell block. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm just not doing this. I'm going outside. I can't deal with this. It scared the living crap out of me. And it was dark in there too. So one wrong step, your foot, because it was it's a graded thing, and it's also it's opened up on the sides. It has to be opened up. There's no blockers there, so your foot can fall off if you made one wrong step.
Your foot would just fall off?
Your foot would just fall right off.
Only your foot.
Just your foot would fall down 6 stories of cells to the floor and hit somebody on the head.
The rest of you would just
bonk somebody over the head. Okay. A Converse sneaker bonking somebody over the head.
Okay.
No, Mansfield's a great place. It's fantastic. You said you've been there once, Felicia?
Yeah.
You gonna go back in?
Yeah, I really want to. I want to take Koi.
Yeah, we should all go out there one weekend.
Yeah, because we're not that far from there.
We're about 3 hours away from there.
And I think we're only 5, 6.
Yeah, we should do a weekend of that. 2 power couples. Go over there and just hang out there. It'd be totally awesome.
Right. I would love to get you guys to come sometime when you're in Missouri or Illinois to the Missouri State Penitentiary.
Yep, we've never been to that one.
Missouri nearly killed me last year. I'm afraid to go to that state now.
Oh God. Well, you don't go walking in a violent storm in a forest that you don't.
Bigfoot.
Well, see, he could have. Scott probably could have encountered that. Bigfoot probably was watching you from the forest somewhere.
Well, everything else was.
Probably while you were being rained on and being bitten by Lyme disease-ridden ticks.
Yeah, ticks.
Bigfoot, meanwhile, is behind a tree going,
dodging snakes. Yeah.
Idiot.
Yeah, Missouri State Penitentiary, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where is that?
It's pretty amazing.
Where's that exactly?
It's in Jefferson City.
Jefferson City? How far is that in relation to Alton? Do you guys know?
Oh, I don't. I would say within 2 hours.
Oh,
that's
that's
not
not
that
far.
Probably less.
That's not that bad. That's not bad up a hike.
I kind of know. I'm kind of making that up. It's not far though.
I'm kind of making
It's far.
up.
Just say it's far. Okay?
It is an
It's
unknown distance.
It's about a 12-hour drive from Alton, guys. You're gonna have to get a hotel if you want to get there. I'd love to guys. We don't get my grandfather's from Missouri. I always hear stories about Missouri, and aside from, I think last year when I nearly got killed there, that was the longest I've spent in Missouri. Was just going out hiking and stuff like that. So I'd like to get down there and spend some more time. Maybe if this whole thing lightens up for next year and we go down to Alton for Troy's, hopefully, I really would like to leave the state next year sometime because it isn't going to happen this year, apparently. Maybe we'll get an early start or something like that, come down there and meet up with you guys or something like that.
That would be awesome.
That'd be totally fun.
Sure.
And you were talking about Mansfield, Ohio State Reformatory, which has been on a bunch of TV shows too. That building has all kinds of cool stuff to its name now. It was in a Godsmack video, if you're a Godsmack fan.
Why was that the first thing you brought up?
Well, because it's
Good song.
Godsmack. What's the name? Yeah, what's tune was that? I forgot.
It was Awake. They filmed the music video there.
Now, the story I got from that, which I think is actually kind of cool, was
that their first album?
I don't think so.
Second album.
Second album. I think what the story I got from some of the guides there about that was the guys from Godsmack, they came to film the video there, and there's a cell. You're walking along, I think maybe the 4th story or something like that. There's a cell when you're walking along, you see paint peeling. Oh, this is brand new. What the hell, And the story I got was they had to refurbish one of the cells for the video they were shooting. And from what I understand, the guys from Godsmack were like, we'll take care of it. And they got some paint and they got some sandpaper and they put on some masks and they actually cleaned it all up themselves and refurbished the room on their own, which I thought was kind of neat. I thought that was kind of cool.
That is pretty cool.
Not afraid to get their hands dirty. And then obviously the Shawshank Redemption, a lot of that was filmed there. If you've been there, there's the tube you can put your head in that Andrew Dufresne put his head in when he had to go crawling through the sewage line, which is, I don't want to talk any more about that. But there's also been a lot of TV shows that have went through Mansfield Reformatory. And, that's one thing I know it's something we talk about a lot on this show, but I'm curious to know what you guys think of, as far as, do you think, let's be fair. What are the pros and pluses and minuses of TV shows, especially, I guess, these days, because they've been around for a long time now. I guess I'm curious to know what you guys think about, how that affects the field.
Or ones
nowadays.
you actually like, if you watch any of them.
Yeah.
I do. I watch them. I like them. I'm some of them are hilarious. A lot of them I like to see the locations because there's just some places I'll never probably be able to get to.
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely kind of a double-edged sword. I think some of it helps because it does allow some of these places to be, restored, open up to more people that are able to get out there. But then I also think it kind of gives people a false, almost like a false hope. You can go there and this stuff is going to happen in, an hour with commercial breaks.
Yeah. Well, the expectations
it doesn't show the boring parts.
No show ever does. They won't.
Well, yeah, it's a bit condensed as far as the action's concerned. But you did raise a really good point, though, Coy. There is some of these locations, they're in bad shape. Mansfield it's been fun to watch Mansfield, for example, because I think the first time we went there was like 2001. And yeah, the place was majestic and beautiful, but it was really beat up on the inside. And we got to see over a number of years the money they were getting from donations, from people wanting to do tours there, and from media, right? Films and movie and TV and stuff like that, that there were real improvements being made to the building. So that's actually a really good point, Coy, is that, yeah, some of these locations that are in dire need of some TLC, this is a way that they can get some of these, places that should not be destroyed. They should be kept, right? They're historic locations. This is how they can kind of get a facelift and be kept around where they should be kept around, I guess.
One thing that I do like about the television shows, so growing up, I was always into ghosts because of my grandma telling me these stories. And then I watched You Remember Sightings. I loved the show Sightings.
Oh, yeah.
But then, like, I grew up in, like, a Pentecostal household. Like,
Ooh,
you don't do ghosts, right? So, once I got interested, we lived in a house that was, like, haunted, right? About that time was when Ghost Hunters started.
Okay.
And that's kind of what got me. I realized by watching that show, I was like, wait, I could do this. I could get those things.
Yeah.
I could get a recorder.
Yeah.
Anybody has a recorder.
Right.
I could try to catch this. So I feel like without watching that show, I probably would have never really got into the paranormal, like as far as investigating.
Right. It was definitely a gateway for a lot of people.
Right.
And if it wasn't one of the shows that became popular with the start of Ghost Hunters, it was shows like Sightings or Unsolved Mysteries. Have you watched the new Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix?
I watched one episode. I gotta watch it all. It was crazy.
Did you watch the one about the very first one about the disappearance of the guy like falling through the building?
Yes.
Yeah, that was weird. I don't know what to think of it though, because I grew up obviously with the one with Robert Stack and it's narrated and these ones are just stories told. They use the same intro music, which I love, and then there's a little shadowy figure of Robert Stack, like it's him, and then it says Unsolved Mysteries, and then it just goes into the story. There's no narration, which I've heard they said they didn't do narration because they have an hour to play with it and work with it, or a little more. Where in the past you had your 1 hour with commercials or half hour. I don't know how long they were, and so they had to tell the story. They had to get it. Robert Stack had to do his thing.
It was way more condensed.
Yeah.
And get to the point.
Yeah. And so I don't know if I don't know if I'm digging the style or not, or if it wasn't keeping my attention. That was the only problem. Like it was an interesting, what they were talking about was interesting, but I was like, and then I'd go do something else, and then I'd look at something else, and
that's what was happening with me.
Okay, good. I feel like I'm not alone there. And a lot of people on social media have said, "Oh, we love it. We love it. We love it. We love it. It was a great show." And I'm like,
no, I'm not quite following you that as far as the pacing of it now, because you said the older show.
Yeah, it was narrated.
It was narrated, and it was way more. It was way quicker though too, because you had commercials.
You had less. Yeah, and now with Netflix, it's I think they're about an hour, maybe a little longer.
And there's no commercials.
No, there's no commercials, but it's like a documentary. They're just letting the people talk.
Family members.
Yeah. And the family members and people are pretty much the ones telling the story. There's no new Robert Stack taking over to kind of interject things. And I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's weird. There's only 6 episodes, so maybe it will get a little better. But
I think a lot of people, I think
different.
I think a lot of those shows were made, they were worked around people like Robert Stack, for example. That show was. I mean, he had obviously his voice and his character and things like that. That's what made the show. I'm totally going to forget the name, but I think I mentioned a long time ago on the show here, I went through, that was a few years ago. I went and I took on the quest to watch every episode of Forensic Files ever made, right? Which we're talking like 20 years. Okay. And I did it. And, I really should be looking up, I got to do this. I'm so sorry, guys. I don't want to sound like a complete blithering idiot. Because hang on. I got my stupid computer in front of me here. Forensic Files narrator. Because I have to say this guy's name. Peter Thomas.
Okay.
Peter Thomas is another one of them who's got this really, really cool voice, right? And that's what made the show. I could literally, maybe this is how I got through them so easy, is because I could listen to him. Because this guy's voice was so good that he would narrate the whole thing, right? And I could get through some of those episodes without even watching my phone or my tablet or the TV. I could just listen to it because it was totally narrated. So I think part of those, them old style shows like that was the great narration. And I don't know why that isn't a thing now. It seems like it would be. I don't know what the deal is with that. Amber, fix it.
Well, okay. I'll write Netflix and talk to them about this. I'm sure they'll contact me right away. Yeah. I think
You are right about that, Scott, though, because Forensic Files, that's my jam. So like every night when I go to bed, I turn it on and I can go to sleep because I don't have to watch it.
Thank you.
And let it go.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, it's the guy, Peter Thomas, had a fantastic voice. And yeah, you could literally, like I said, you could listen to it like an audio thing. And yeah, I never try. I mean, I have probably went to sleep with a lot more disturbing stuff than that, so I can't talk. I nowadays I don't do that. Now it's like meditation, like talk down type things during the day. But yeah, I can understand. It's kind of soothing. Peter Thomas has a soothing voice too, so yeah, I totally get that. But I wonder why they don't have the great narration. Maybe because it costs too much now. Who knows? Amber,
I was going to say because they have to pay those people.
Right.
Yeah, and
The family
Netflix is.
members are-
Well, yeah, this is. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Felicia. Go ahead.
I was saying, like the narrators, they have to pay them to do that. Whereas if they're just having the family tell the story, they're not putting all that money out.
Yeah. Well, and Netflix is about go, get out as quick as cheap as possible too. So that don't surprise me at all. So there's your problem, Amber. You're on that. By the next show, we have to have this problem resolved.
Okay. Yeah.
Fix that.
I think they're bringing back one of those other shows too, like World's Scariest Places, which that was another show in the early O's I really liked because like Coy said, these shows took you to places that you might not ever get to. And they'd give you a little history, whether people want to debate on how great the history research was or not. You still get a story that's mostly accurate, I would think.
Yeah.
And you get to see it. And then you get to hear some stories about what was creepy and what like ghost demon dog they found there in the corner. And I don't know, just weird stuff that would always pop up on these shows that were sometimes extreme. But I enjoyed it. I liked that stuff as a kid. And I think it did shape me, I guess, to where I am now with I got involved in ghost hunting before Ghost Hunters came out. And so when Ghost Hunters came
You
out,
didn't say that right.
I got involved.
I got involved with ghost
my
hunting
God.
before
I
Ghost
didn't
Hunters
mean it.
came out.
No. Okay. That's not how I meant
I'm
it.
totally joking.
But when that show came, it was not long before it, but when that show came out, then it sort of validated because I actually felt nerdy. If someone said, like, what are you doing with your hobby? I go ghost hunting, and like they like smirk and be
Yeah.
okay, where's your pack? You have a pet Slimer, and then as soon as that show came out, it kind of made you cooler. It justified it a bit, like like those guys on TV. Oh, it's cool. I want to go somewhere with you. And then you were like a rock star for a hot second. Like you weren't a dork.
I never felt that way once.
You never felt like a rock star?
Absolutely
Okay.
not. I don't think. No, I don't.
Okay. I didn't feel like a rock star, but you're making me sound like a pretentious like doof right now. But just you felt like a little cooler or justified in your dorky hobby. How's that?
No, not really.
Ugh. Okay. Well, I did.
Well, no, I do think you're right though. It kind of brought it into the mainstream and
It did.
So to speak, normalized it.
Right.
You realize like, oh, these are normal people that have day jobs and wake up and cook breakfast and do, they're not these weirdos like lurking in the dark with their flashlights. And,
Well, yeah.
I thought
But we are.
yeah, walk around in the dark talking to ourselves and.
No, and I agree. I think that did normalize and tell a story of like, okay, like we're regular working people like anybody else's. We have it, but we have an interest in this stuff, right? The only issue I still have is, well, Amber kind of laid it out already. I say this often. Like I remember I got to a certain point with this stuff years and years ago where if people I didn't know that well, that didn't know me that well, mentioned something about the paranormal, I'd quell up because I didn't want to spend the next 3 hours explaining to them why, what they saw on Paranormal State wasn't real, or something like that, right? And I found myself just getting totally worn out by spending more time talking about this is the reason that's not, that's just TV, it's just editing and stuff like that, right? Literally talking till I was hoarse about a subject like that as opposed to talking about the cool stuff, right?
Right.
And I was always tried to look at this subject with a very fair, with a very fair eye, I think. And yeah, there's a lot of positives. It does inspire people. I think that's fantastic. It does give money to locations that maybe need repair, need restoration and things like that. I think that's fantastic too. There's a lot of other positives, I think. But on a personal basis, it's kind of tough still because it's like, no, I'm not like Jason and Grant. I'm very far from that, actually. First off, I don't have nearly the amount of the money those guys have. They're rich. I'm not. Second off, it's a different thing, I guess. And I don't know. It's not, like we said before, a lot of the TV shows, they're very condensed. You only see all the exciting stuff. You don't see the other 12 hours of sitting around waiting, letting your equipment record something. Right. And people are standing around outside the location drinking coffee or something like that. Obviously, we all know that isn't good. That's not good for TV.
No, and I think that's what caused the major influx of teams back in the day, like in the mid-O's and stuff, where there was like every city had its own little paranormal team, or every group of friends had a paranormal team.
Yeah.
And then once they all realized, oh crap, this isn't the same as like what we see on TV. This kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And then I'd have a lot of people contact me on my website and say, I want to join a paranormal team, but none of these guys will write me back. And I'm like, that's because they're a group of friends. They're little cliques. Like, they're not some kind of scientific team, and you fill out an application and you go through a vetting
Yeah, we only
process.
know one group that does that.
We do know one.
One group that does that.
But
That's it.
they're a group of friends. Like, so I'm sorry they never wrote you back and let you into the clique, but that's why then they'd be like, well, I'm going to start my own group. And so it would just like snowball. And now I don't know if that's a thing so much anymore.
I think
there's still people out there doing it and have their groups, but I don't think it's such a big thing that, and a lot of people felt like those groups made a mess of a lot of stuff back in the day because there was a lot of bad photography, the whole orb fiasco, any weird photo that you had, or early digital cameras that had all the strange digital artifacts in them. And I don't know. It was a weird moment to look back on right now because now it's almost like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And to think about all the things that I used to even think were like real when I started ghost hunting. Like I'd see things, the orb thing. We get dust orbs at first, and we didn't know any better. We're like, oh my God,
and everybody's got to crawl before they can walk.
They do. You got to learn. And I think when I started taking pictures and orbs were popping up in a lot of places on this early digital camera I had, I'm like, something's up here. And others would say, oh, that's because those cameras are sensitive to the other side.
I grabbed my camera. I was like, behold. I have the proof.
Yeah.
Everybody, look, I'm standing Centurion on the mountain with this camera, this Sony Mavica that takes 2.5-inch floppy disks. I have the key to the afterlife right here. It'll only cost you $500 for
that stupid thing $500
I paid for that thing when it first came out.
Oh my God. My first digital camera I bought off eBay, and it was refurbished, and I think I spent $250, and I had to fight in an auction for it.
Yeah.
Stupid.
So, I mean, I guess the TV thing, I mean, there's a lot of positives, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it's inspiring to a lot of people. And they're not going anywhere. That's my prediction.
No.
I remember when you could only find those shows like during the month of October.
Yep.
Like I would wait all year long because I got 31 days to watch all my ghost shows.
Yep. Yep. That was always a thing that I was big into. Like, oh yeah, September would start creeping in and you start seeing the advertisements.
All the cool shows are coming on.
Oh, couldn't wait. And then, now you can find it anywhere. I mean, now we have just TV on demand all the time, or YouTube. So it kind of takes the joy out of waiting for some of those programs. Like, remember having to wait for The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, or any of those weird, The Great Pumpkin, and you'd have to wait.
Not me, because we recorded all that stuff.
Well, okay.
We had the VHS tape.
Have you busted out the VHS?
The 15th generation VHS tape that we recorded over Roseanne 40 times. We had a copy of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer to watch. You could barely hear.
Well, I didn't
have to wait for anything.
Some things you had to wait for still. So, you guys having kids, and I'm not sure, what ages are your kids?
They are 10, 12, 16, and 20.
Okay, so that's actually a decent range. So having parents that are interested in otherworldly things, the supernatural, the paranormal, do any of your kids think that that's stupid and mom and dad are dumb? Or do they think like you guys are extra hip because their parents are into that?
I think they think it's hip.
Okay.
If anyone doesn't, it's Athena, but she's very I don't know.
She's very structured.
Okay.
Like cleans her room like once a week. Like makes a list of things she has to do on
Aw.
her mirror and checks them off.
Basically, if it's not in front of her face, it's not real. It's not
Okay.
there. So she would probably be the one that's least likely to enjoy us doing this. Dagan, our son, he's really into it. He loves it. He's too scared to do anything, but he talks a good game.
And do you guys have conversations with the kids, obviously, about this stuff? It sounds like.
Yeah, it's like, for Mother's Day, for Mother's Day, they got me a bunch of crystals, some meditation
Aw.
stones, and like a crystal grid, right?
Cute.
And so I'm opening at this, and then I look at them, and I'm like, "Is this weird?" And Athena says, "Not for our family." So yeah, we definitely talked to them about it. We try to tell them there's nothing to be scared of.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have the most, like, I think, open-minded kids when it comes to anything like this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not strange for them to hear, like, oh, we'll be right back. We got to go meet somebody. They have this clown that acts weird, and, they don't want it, and they want to give it to us. So we got
to bring it home to you.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That's a normal thing in our house. So
If weird things happen, they're like, "Mom, what did you bring home?"
yeah, that is a very normal question
I love
too.
that. I love that. And now, Felicia, you said you grew up Pentecostal. So
Right.
so they're like, they're not going to have one foot in the whole, even though they have, like, I think very supernatural tones going through that whole thing with
Right,
speaking in
exactly.
tongues and like lots of crazy stuff going on there. Did that make you turn away from that structured, like version of Christianity? And then how have you raised your kids? Like, do they have a religion, or do you guys just kind of go Church of the Common, be a good person church?
That's ours. Be a good person. Yeah, I don't want to force anything on them. I feel like that's a personal decision for
Yeah.
them. I was made to go to church 3 times a week,
Oh my God.
like twice on Sundays, Wednesdays, and then of course you have revival, which means you're there all week, every night, and we would be traveling to other towns for church. So I didn't want to force that on my kids. I want them to make their own decisions.
Yeah.
I can barely get down here I can barely walk down the steps to do this show once a week nowadays. It's how horrible and hearing that, God, I'm a bum.
Yeah, I was
I am
forced.
such a
I had to go
bum.
to catechism. I had to go to like catechism, which is the Catholic Bible school, like every Monday.
Yeah.
And I dreaded it every second because it was just corny. It wasn't fun. It was corny. Like if we sang songs, they were stupid songs.
Well, that's the point. That's what church is.
It's just bad. I call it shrill church voice. There was always the like woman that was like the lead choir person with that shrill like, Jesus loves us, yes he does, because she really, you know what I mean?
Keep going, Amber.
No,
Yeah.
I can't. That's a fake. That's not my real voice. That's fake. That's my fake shrill church voice. And then there'd be a
Fake
guy,
shrill church voice.
then a bad keyboard, and like a guy just strumming an acoustic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I just hated every minute of it. And probably because I was that little metalhead kid and just wanted to go home and watch cartoons and
listen to Lizzie Borden.
I don't remember Lizzie when I was little.
Or Crimson Glory or
Crimson Glory.
Queensryche.
Queensryche I would have liked.
Yeah, totally Queensryche.
Well,
I mean, but I think that's really cool though, because I mean, as far as a parenting thing, and one of the things I thought about, and I think about this a lot when it comes to kids and the paranormal and stuff like that, is it's something I always fall back on as far as the idea. And that's, I think a lot of kids raise their, a lot of parents raise their kids to kind of shut them out of the paranormal, out of other ideas and stuff like that. Like, no, look, ghosts don't exist. You're fine. You're safe in your house. You got nothing to be scared of. There's no boogeyman. None of that stuff exists. Just chill. Right. Everything's fine. And I think it's parents they're doing the best job they can. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think that's how those filters get built up in your mind over time.
Or ghosts aren't real, but Santa Claus brings presents and comes down the
Right.
chimney.
Yeah.
And the tooth fairy comes to get your tooth, but there's no such thing as a
Very steals
ghost.
your teeth and pays you for it.
Yeah. And you wonder why there's kids that have gotten on top of water towers with clown suits on and started firing on other people right there. They have that kind of crap going back and forth with their parenting right there. Yeah. I mean, it's confusing, I think. That's an extreme example.
Yeah, I was like,
but-
wait, what?
Okay, all right.
I was okay, and I
took a real
believed in
turn.
those. Yeah.
The show just got really dark.
Huh.
No, but I mean, I think it's cool to hear that. Like, okay, look, it's your life. We're going to show you the right things to do, do the smart things, be a responsible, good person, right? But
Right.
as far as spiritualism and spirituality, and all this weird stuff that we're into, it's not going to be pushed on you, right? I think that's very cool, and I think the younger generation. That's kind of it's a common thing, which I think is really cool, right?
No, like letting your kids just choose and decide for themselves when they get older.
Yeah, not being forced into something like that. I mean, well, see, I mean, here's a good example, right? I know people parents that, well, we never smoked because we didn't want our kids to smoke. Right. And the first thing I see the kid, as soon as they turn 16 years old, they're lighting up, right? Because it's a rebellion thing. It's a total rebellion thing. Well, you need to go to church 15 times a week here and this and that. And yeah, you get turned off right away. It's a rebellion thing because that's what young people do. That's part of how they're wired at that time is they're wired. And I'm not saying use reverse psychology on them, but hey, here's the freedom. And I'm speaking like a true non-parent too, I'm sure. But it's like, I think it's cool to hear that though. I think it is common sense, right? Where, okay, here, we're going to give you the freedom to believe the way you want to believe, but here's some rules you got to go by. I think there has to be some kind of guidance there, right?
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and again, we're not parents. So
No, you're right. You're right.
yeah,
Completely.
that's just my thing. I think they children should have this idea, have that freedom to believe what they want to believe. And I think it's as simple as that. It's just really cool to hear that. That's excellent. All right, let's look towards the future here. Because holy crap, we've been going for, I'm sorry. We've just been going and going here. Hope you guys didn't have any other plans tonight.
No, we're good.
So, I mean, as far as the future is concerned here, we covered a lot of stuff just with the field in general and things like that. And I think about this a lot too, as far as, the paranormal field. And I mean, that's kind of a big umbrella, right? So I think we've kind of been narrowing this down to more of the investigation, like ghost investigation, spirit investigation type stuff. So I think we should keep it in that arena too. As far as the future of that, like, I have my ideas looking forward. What are your guys' ideas looking forward in this field? Like maybe the next 10 years, what we may see?
I think it's going to be a lot of like what we were talking about earlier, much more personal. I think it's going to be more based on the individual experience. I do think we are headed away from the gadgets. I think the only thing keeping the gadgets really going is the TV shows, because that's what the mainstream people see.
Yeah.
But I think in the core, smaller circles, I think it's going to be much more personal experiences, and it's all really going to be kind of headed in that direction. And I think like podcasts and stuff like that, where it's much smaller audience, but much more of a targeted audience, is really kind of directing that.
I think the podcast thing, especially now, it's something that I've said before, and I've heard of a lot of other way more famous podcasters say this. The beauty of what podcasts are is the long form conversation, right? Where you can express an idea instead of having, we talked about the TV shows from the day yonder, right? Yeah, they had to condense a lot of things and cram a lot of stuff in because they had to deal with commercial after commercial after commercial. Now we have technology out there, literally at the tip of our fingers, that we can do podcasts and express an entire idea, especially on stuff like the paranormal or ghost investigations, where it isn't as easy as just, well, this is green and blue is blue, and that's the end of it. Let's move on. It's a lot of topics and a lot of ideas that needs to be talked through, I think. And this is a great platform for that. So I think, I agree with you on that, Coy, that the podcast thing is something I think it's just going to grow and grow and grow.
It's been a huge influence, like how we were saying, because we're all around the same age. We were saying, well, shows like Unsolved Mysteries and Sightings and stuff like that influenced us. For this up and coming generation, they're going to say, hey, I learned this on podcasts. I got excited about the paranormal and ghost stories because of this podcast, I listened to, like Astonishing Legends or Lore or something else. That's what I think. And, that's what's going to happen. Like, it's just every generation has their thing that they're exposed to that makes them interested or excited about something. And I think the podcast movement is helping drive that too for future kids out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, with everything going digital to phone, everything's on your phone.
Right.
Everything is now on your phone, and you're able to reach such a larger audience, and people that may not have access to these groups or seeing or going to all these places are realizing I don't need anything. Like, I've been listening to these people, and they don't take anything.
Yeah.
I can go out there and experience this without needing all that stuff.
Yeah, and it's just the influence. I think it's in podcast in general too. Just talking about that. They come when it comes to the paranormal. They come in all shapes and sizes, and this just jogged this thought because my email popped up. I popped up my screen real fast for a second, and I actually got an email from another podcast that I just discovered a couple days ago. That's they're gonna probably be on the show too. But it's a podcast I just came across, and when I said they come in all shapes and sizes, it's not just like like our show where we just kind of fly by the seat of our pants. We just kind of talk, right? But there's other shows that are very well produced. I mean, Troy's American Hauntings podcast, Troy, what he does there, and oh my God, how am I forgetting that wonderful, beautiful man's
Cody.
name? Cody. Oh my God, what's wrong? I'm so sorry, Cody. I'm so sorry, Cody. It's been too long, Cody. It's a very well produced, beautiful podcast, and there's a lot of other ones that are way more formalized and produced and stuff like that. And so they come in all shapes and sizes. So if you want to hear like a ghost story with someone who's got a really good radio voice who can produce it and make it sound really cool, you can get that. Or you can just hear conversation about the subject that we do here. So they come in all different shapes and sizes. And yeah, they do. You get those ideas. That's what I think you were talking about, Coy, was, this is where you can get those ideas. And it's free, for Christ's sake. Well, I guess there's advertising on some of these ones, but really, that's what I'm still kind of blown away that I can go and download a 2 or 3 hour show from some podcast that I like and just download the MP3 file to my phone or my laptop and then listen to it and be entertained for 2 or 3 hours for free.
Remember when a single MP3 used to take an hour to download?
An hour. Try 2 or 3 hours.
One song.
Yeah. Rookie.
I think that was still on dial-up, though. I can't remember.
Downloading an entire Art Bell show on a 56K. Try 2.5 to 3 hours to get the show down.
So stupid. And the whole time, like, plugging up your phone line.
Oh, killing it. No one could call. It was
beep, beep, beep.
Yeah.
That sound.
Boy, those were the days. Those were some fun days. But yeah, I think that, the future, I think a big part of the future is, you know what? It may not even be a matter, for me, and this is my idea, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong. It may not even be a matter of someone going out into the field, right? Like going out and doing some field work, let's say, right? It may be someone who's sitting in their bedroom, a young child, or maybe whatever, any person, sitting in their room, and they download a podcast and they listen to a couple of people talk about ghosts and stuff like that, and they start formulating their own ideas. And you don't have to, I don't think you necessarily have to go to a location with a camera or something like that to have an experience or even have any ideas or have a thought on this stuff and formulate an idea. It could just be somebody who listens to a podcast and says, well, I'm going to write this stuff down. And maybe that turns into a book. You don't know, right? So, right. I think a lot of it, we're kind of all stuck in our houses right now anyway, so that may be the only option we have down the road. I don't know. But I think, the future is, I really hope the future is that, where it is this type of community, open source type community of people who just want to exchange ideas, for the betterment, I think I mean, again, drooling hippie coming through here, but for the betterment of this field. And maybe to exchange more ideas. I don't know. I'm melting down. Good night. Am I wrong though? Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah,
No.
it does make sense.
All right. What about you, Amber?
Yeah, it makes total sense. Sure.
Well, great. Then our job is done here. We've solved all the world's problems. We can all go to bed now. We're good.
I still stand by what I said, that the podcasts are just another way to influence future generations. And it doesn't have to be just a generational thing. It can be anybody. They could be 50 years old, 70, hear a podcast, become inspired, write a book, do something, get a world tour, dominate everything, figure out the paranormal.
Yeah, from their bedroom.
Yeah,
from their bedroom.
So it's, I just think, same as holding this book from 1969.
God, the back of that thing still screws my head up. That still freaks
That's
me
the
out.
tulip staircase.
I know it freaks me out still.
But
what a
Holding This
cool
Book,
picture.
Haunted Houses by Larry Kettlecamp, published in 1969.
I should
In
really try to get him on the show.
1969, this was just a different version of a podcast.
Right.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
That was profound, Amber.
Yep. And with that,
Coy, Felicia, thank you so much.
Thank
know
you
what?
for having
Yeah, it was our honor to have
I know
you
we
guys
can't
on.
see you in person, so next best thing.
Let's talk. I'm sorry we didn't really. God, we've just been jabbering for the last hour and whatever here. And can we talk about the podcast, your podcast, for a second? I'm really sorry. Until Dawn. First off, there's the website. Where can we find you guys at?
I mean, really, you can search Until Dawn podcast, and we'll pop up. I mean, the podcast is everywhere. I tried to find anywhere that I could put it out. That way, it was accessible to as many people, whether you have Android, Spotify, iTunes. I mean, iHeartRadio. I think I put it on iHeartRadio.
Cool.
So you can pretty much find it just about
it. It even
anywhere.
goes to YouTube, doesn't it?
Yeah, the audio version just goes straight to YouTube as well. So
Excellent. Yeah, I'm sorry we didn't mention that. We started gabbing here, and we
have an intro to do yet still, too.
We still have that, and I have to say also, you guys still do have the coolest stickers I've ever seen.
Yeah, they are.
Any paranormal.
I'm looking at one right now.
Where is it? Is it the one on the rack
Yeah,
over there?
yeah.
It's on the rack mount. Yeah, and there's one upstairs. I know we have it on the table up there, and we don't want to use it on anything because we like it so much. It's such a beautiful sticker. It was our honor, guys, to have you on the show tonight. Thank you. We can't thank you enough for spending some time with us, and I really hope the next time we talk, it'll be face to face with a beer in our hands.
Yes,
Please
absolutely.
Ghostly Talk!
So hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to that as much as we enjoyed doing it. It really was a lot of fun. And on that note, I think that's all we got for this episode. So until next time, I'm Coy.
I'm Felicia.
And this is Until Dawn.